Hi, everybody. Okay, here we go. A lot going on now. With we kind of blew right past nothing's happening to um, Obama is going to have presidential immunity. I mean, we zipped right through. Nothing's going to happen to. Oh my God, Obama led a conspiracy, multiple criminal conspiracies to nothing's gonna happen to him because he's got presidential immunity, damn it. We went through that like from 0 to 100. Zoom! Nothing's gonna happen. Nothing's gonna happen to Obama. No, Obama's got immunity, okay? 0 to 100. So I was thinking, it's time to address this, okay? Because unlike a lot of social media influencers who become instant experts on it, doesn't matter what it is, wherever the news cycle goes, whatever subject it lands on, all of these social media influencers instantly become experts. And so it's no different now with the whole presidential immunity thing, because like I said, we went from nothing's happening, nothing's gonna happen, to oh my God, Tulsi Gabbard's doing all these declassifications. She's showing all the shit Obama did, dragging it out into the light, and we went from 0 to 100. Well, that doesn't matter how many criminal acts Obama engaged in. He has presidential immunity. Presidential immunity. Okay. 0 to 100. You got all these social media influencers out there telling you nothing's going to happen to Obama. He can't be charged for anything. Well, it just so happens. I took a deep dive into the presidential immunity issue back in 2017, all the way through 2019, when Mueller finally hung it up. Because if you were alive back then and paying attention, you may recall how furiously and endlessly the Democrats were trying to gaslight the country into believing that Donald Trump was going to be indicted and prosecuted by the Mueller Special Counsel. You may recall back then there was practically endlessly an endless rolling wave seeding the idea in the fake news media that Donald Trump had committed very serious crimes now. And Mueller was going to be able to charge him. So instead of just making shit up as I went along, which is what a lot of people do, I took a deep dive into the issue of presidential immunity beginning in 2017, and I had to revisit that many times during the 28 months or whatever it was that the Mueller Special Counsel was operating. And a lot of people don't understand presidential immunity. It's very simple. In theory, it comes down to what you can define as an official act, what is and what is not an official act. Richard Nixon, back in 1973, the story was he used the CIA and national security claim to block the FBI's investigation of the Watergate break-in. That was one of the articles of impeachment, you may recall. That was a crime. Now, he was still in office, so Congress could impeach him. And once he was out of office, he was able to be charged for that crime, which is why Gerald Ford issued a full and complete pardon to Richard Milhouse Nixon once he was no longer in office. They catch you doing a serious crime while you are a president, still in the White House. Well, then Congress has the impeachment remedy for that. But if it comes out many years later, let's say you left office in 2017, and it only comes out later that you committed numerous crimes from 2000, especially towards the tail end of your 8 years in office. You committed a host of very serious crimes from 2009 to the day you handed the reins to Donald Trump on January 2017. You're no longer in office now. You're a former president. So the arguments being advanced by a lot of people who were just telling us a couple days ago, nothing's going to happen. Nothing will ever happen. None of these people are ever, they all got away with it. They have immediately segued to a new position. Well, it doesn't matter what evidence they have that Obama did this or that particular crime, because the man has presidential immunity. Yeah, he's got presidential immunity. Anything he did in office from 2009 to 2017 is all he had to do was claim national security. He is protected. He cannot be prosecuted for any of it. You already have instant experts on social media telling you this. Well, I beg to differ. If a sitting president enters into a criminal conspiracy with the head of the FBI, the vice president, and his national security advisor, and his attorney general, and his CIA director, to engage in a criminal conspiracy, which involves a felony leak of classified information to target an person for both getting fired from a job and maybe prosecuted for several years for some fucking dumb Logan Act violation thing. Have him interviewed by the FBI over some Logan Act bullshit. And then you move to prosecute that fellow. You're part of that conspiracy. It originated while you were in office. You kicked it into gear. You set it into motion. But you were out of office when the guy was actually investigated. When the Mueller Special Counsel formed and they went after him. You don't get to come out and say, well, you see, when I held that meeting in the White House on January 5th, 2017, and we all huddled up, me and Joe Biden and Loretta Lynch and James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Bill Priestap and Peter Strzok. We all huddled up and we tried to discuss how we were going to get Flynn, and maybe we go after him using the Logan Act. Okay. I'm the president of the United States. It's okay. It's okay if I do that. That's not a crime because I'm the president. and I have immunity. Now these other assholes in the room, they joining and forming this criminal conspiracy with me to use the classified leak, a federal felony leak of a phone call transcript to the Washington Post to target this innocent man, to get him fired, and then to prosecute him because we sent some FBI agents to interview him and created a false statement trap for him with that interview, which we then eagerly pursued for about 4 years. Okay. If I decide to do that, it's okay. I'm the president. I'm allowed to do that kind of shit. All I have to do is say, hey, national security. I can do whatever I want. There are people out there right now trying to sell this narrative to the public. As long as you're the president, you can do whatever you want. Everything you do is an official act. And I've been saying for some time now that I think the whole social media influencing thing was a massive mistake. It was a big mistake because these people don't read shit. They don't research anything. They don't take time to verify anything. They're out there to monetize clicks and views and framing things in the most outrageous way that's going to upset people and inflame their emotions. That's just the ticket. That's just how you do it. If you come out and accurately say every criminal conspiracy that Barack Obama engaged in was not part of his official duties as president, so he has no immunity for those things. Nobody gets emotionally outraged when you do that. See, you're not gonna reap a bonanza of views and clicks by telling people, when Obama calls in James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, he says, "Listen, the mid-year exam thing, I need you to cool your jets on that. Hillary is my chosen successor, okay? I'm ordering you not to do anything to end her campaign, to find her guilty of all the crimes she committed." So we all had secret email addresses and we're all sending emails back and forth over these hidden, illegal, unencrypted, non-governmental server networks using fake email names, like the Cardinal of the Kremlin guy, whichever one Biden. We already know at least 3 of the fake names Biden was using. And we're sending emails using fake names back and forth to each other using draft emails. And we're not leaving any trace, see. The Google guy, Eric Schmidt, told us there would be no way for anybody to trace this. And we believed him. So we're sending emails containing special access program information in them. Back and forth to each other now. On non-governmental, unencrypted email networks. And she got caught. And some of the special access program stuff was exposed to the CCP, the Chinese. And you're investigating this right now, you folks at the FBI. But listen, Hillary Clinton is my chosen successor. Don't you do anything to fuck this up. You hear me? I don't care how much classified stuff she exposed. or that got handed to our enemies? How many special access programs do you compromise? I don't give a shit. You make this go away. I'm ordering you as the president. You find a way to end this investigation that is favorable to her and allows her to walk away unscathed so she can continue to run for president against that son of a bitch, Donald Trump. You make this happen. And they did. They did make that happen. And you got assholes on social media that will tell you, well, he's the president. He can do that. He can give that kind of order. He can create that kind of conspiracy where he's literally engaging in obstruction of justice. And it's legal for him to do that because he has presidential immunity. And you will, even if all of this comes out and you find out years later that he did all of this, he knew that Clinton and the cronies at the State Department and all these other people in the Obama administration, he knew they were sending unencrypted emails back and forth off the books on secret illegal networks, compromising at the highest levels, compromising classified materials. Now he calls them all in and says, you make this go away. She is going to be president. Don't you let this mid-year exam investigation of her illegal email server. You better not do anything here that damages her so she can't win. And James Comey and Andrew McCabe, yes, sir. Hey, we got it straight from the president. Yes, sir, Mr. President, sir. We will make the Clinton email scandal go away. Now, have you noticed? Have you noticed that all the big players in the mid-year exam scandal, we're going to catch Hillary Clinton red-handed running an illegal email server where a bunch of Obama people are using fake email names and they're sending classified material back and forth to each other, exposing all of it, selling special access program stuff to our enemies. All the people involved in the mid-year exam effortlessly segue less than a year later, so all involved in setting up the Spygate scandal. Have you noticed that? It's the same freaking people. So, any investigation of Spygate, it's going to necessarily lead you right to the Clinton email server scandal. Because you have to remember, why did the Clinton campaign want to invent all of these Trump-Russia collusion hoaxes? What was the cause of that? Why did they feel particularly compelled to create a bunch of Russia hoaxes? It's not cheap to do this. You got enough real shit you're doing on a presidential campaign, you know. Why do they end up investing all this money for a dirty trick squad to go out and invent the Steele dossier and invent the Alpha Bank hoax and then pay big money for these lawyers and these PR people? You know, the lawyers at Perkins Coie and the PR people at Fusion GPS to pay their money to go around to all these news media outlets and shops, steal dossier allegations. What led them to want to do that? Well, if you go back to 2015, when the server scandal first broke, Clinton looked pretty unassailable at that point. Now, fake news polls have always been fake, but she did have a substantial lead on everybody else in the Democratic Party. But the moment the scandal broke about her illegal email server in her bathroom, and the fact that there was classified material on there, and that had been compromised. None of this was encrypted. It was sitting there wide open. They know foreign governments went in there and had a look at it. Her server was hacked. Yes, they know this. When that news broke in 2015, Clinton's poll numbers began to drop, and Donald Trump gained momentum. Yeah, okay, I know the fake news polls always said Clinton had an insurmountable, massive lead, okay? But look, campaigns don't rely on fake news polls. Fake news polls, what's Bill Clinton's famous phrase? Fake news polls, that's boo bait for the bubbas. That's what fake news polls are. Boo bait for the bubbas. All right. So real professionals, they do their own internal polling. All right. They don't rely on all this fake shit from ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News. They know that shit's not real. They pay big money for their own internal polling. And by the time you get to around June of 2016, the Clinton campaign is getting really worried. Her poll numbers have done nothing but drop. The internal polling now. I'm not talking about the fake polling. I'm talking about the real polling. Her numbers were dropping. Trump was gaining on her. They're looking at this and shit, man, we got to do something. This is not good. Guy's never run for office before in his life, and he's gaining on us. This alpha male, big swaggering dick blowhard is gaining on it. Guys, we got to do something. And so, in late June of 2016, at the Clinton campaign headquarters in Brooklyn, New York, Clinton's team sat her down during a strategy meeting, and they presented a plan to her. Okay, Hillary, your email server scandal is killing you, honey. It's killing you. As long as the public's attention remains focused on this, the fact that you are an evil bitch of a crook that sold out your country and didn't care about national security, and you exposed all this classified material on your private server because you wanted to have all this stuff off the books, and you're running all this shady pay-for-play Clinton Foundation bullshit. As long as the public is looking at this, you're in trouble. So, Hillary, we come up with a plan. We have a plan about how to distract the public. and get the public's eyes off of your incompetence and your being a crook. We're going to present them with a big distraction that involves Donald Trump. We're going to get the public to stop looking at you and your real crimes by inventing a bunch of fake Russia collusion shit around Donald Trump. We believe we can successfully manufacture several hoaxes, and we can use our. I'm gonna have to mute my phone. Sorry, it's going off like every other second. Yeah, I mean, people trying to get a hold of me, all right, and I'm gonna turn my phone off. Okay. What was I saying? Okay. We gotta get them to stop looking at you, Hillary. We need them to be looking at Trump as if Trump is the big crook, as if Trump is the big traitor, as if Trump is the one that's selling his country out and not you. So we believe we can successfully create a series of Trump Russia collusion hoaxes and use our allies in the press to distract the public by sending them wave after wave of Trump is a Russian asset stories. And we will pull the public's eyes off of you. And we will send their eyes to Donald Trump. And the person who came up with this plan and presented it to Hillary Clinton at that meeting was supposedly her top foreign policy advisor, who happened to be Jake Sullivan, the guy who just spent 4 years from 2020 to 2024 as Joe Biden's national security advisor. So the reason they came up with Russiagate, the reason the Clinton campaign decided to invest time, money, resources, and personnel into inventing Russian hoaxes is because, man, that server scandal was killing her. It was killing her in the internal polling, and they needed to do something to try to pull everybody's eyes off of her and what she did. Let me give you an idea of the stakes about this thing. Special access programs like the most classified shit in the government. I mean, this is the tippy top classified stuff. You're talking about special access program. Remember the first Mission Impossible movie, The Knock List? The whole movie revolves around the MacGuffin for the first Mission Impossible film, The Knock List. Everybody wants the Knock List. Non-official cover list. Everybody wants it. The CIA had a knock list. And sometime between 2012 and 2015, somebody, we can speculate who, but somebody exposed every single intelligence asset in Iran and China. Decades worth of careful asset cultivation was wiped out in just 2 years. Hundreds of people in Iran and China were either executed or imprisoned for life, many of them, executed in prison for life as spies because they were compromised. And if you go back and search, you can find stories about this, and they pass it off as if this was just a mere oversight. Somebody made an accident on our website, and somehow the Iranians and the CCP suddenly knew who all the Western intelligence assets were in the country. And dozens, over probably couple hundred people in both Iran and China ended up being executed over this. It was bad. It was very bad when you have government officials doing their own illegal pay for play is just part of it. Pay for play, and some of these people are selling special access programs shit to foreign countries. They're traders, okay? They're selling special access program stuff. And this starts coming out in 2015. All these emails being traded back and forth off the books now. Totally avoiding the Federal Records Act. I mean, yeah. If you're running illegal pay-for-play schemes and you're selling special access program tech to our enemies and overseas foreign governments, you can't exactly use the official email and comms, the official governmental encrypted comms network, can you? Well, of course you can. Of course, if you're coordinating arms deal, off the books arms deals to arm people like ISIS and Al Qaeda and all of these Operation Gladio paramilitary units around the world, you can't exactly use official State Department channels for that. You understand what I'm telling you? If you're sending ISIS a couple $1 million and buying arms for them and sending them directions about who to kill next, you can't use the official email services for that. You can't use the governmental email systems. You understand that? You got to have your own off the books private network for that kind of thing. And they did, man. They did have a private off the books email comms network. You think Hillary Clinton was the only one out there with an illegal private server running shit on a private network? Well, she wasn't. Oh no, she wasn't. So where have I been going with this? Okay. Well, even if Obama's running a secret off the books communications network where they're all selling special access program stuff and they're arming ISIS and shit like that, he's the president. It's okay if he does that. He's not doing anything illegal. Or let me put it this way, you couldn't prosecute him for any of this shit. No matter how many thousands and thousands of people that ended up dead, because he's got immunity. And there are people out there that believe this shit. I'm watching it form already. All the dumbass social media influencers in less than a week that gone from nothing's gonna happen and nothing's happening, nothing's gonna happen. Nobody's ever being brought to justice. Here we are a week later. It doesn't matter how many crimes Obama did in office. He's got immunity. Nothing's gonna happen to him. Isn't that amazing? We went from one to the other in the span of 5 days. No, it doesn't matter if you're the president. If you're using an illegal off the books email server network to sell special access program material to our enemies, or you know about it and you didn't say anything about it and you didn't stop it, then you became part of a RICO criminal conspiracy. It literally doesn't matter that you're the president. You do not have immunity for that. No. I mean, just off the top of my head, the moment I first encountered this narrative, he got immunity for his official acts. Listen, just off the top of my head, I can come up with 2 things that were not official acts. There was nothing. Okay, even though it's taking place in the White House on January 5th, 2017. And it's Obama and the Vice President Biden and FBI Director Comey and Deputy Director McCabe and Peter Strzok and Bill Priestap and Loretta Lynch and Susan Rice, even though it's an official, it's taking place inside the White House. Look at the notes from that meeting. Was there anything official about the group forming a plan to target an innocent man for a Logan Act investigation so they could get him fired and then prosecute him? Was there anything official about that? Yeah, just out of the blue. We need to get rid of this guy. Remember, they had to move fast. The one person they wanted to get rid of before anybody else was General Flynn. Because they know the moment he gets on there. Oh, we even found out that they deep sixed the presidential daily briefing to make sure that Flynn didn't see it. Because the moment Flynn got in there and he got settled in, the first thing he's going to find out, they're fighting to keep it from him, to keep the Trump team in the dark about the FISA warrants on the Trump campaign that started up in October and that they renewed in mid-January, just before the inauguration. It was up for its first renewal. Just to keep anybody in the Trump campaign from finding out about the spying that was going on. They know eventually Flynn is going to find out. Holy shit. You people were getting FISA warrants on the Trump campaign that I was part of. You were spying on me and Devin Nunes and Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump and Eric Trump and Don Jr. and, of course, Donald Trump himself. You're spying on all of us based on a FISA warrant on Cody Page that had fake Steele dossier bullshit in it. Are you kidding me? You're kidding me, aren't you? Okay. They knew it was only a matter of time till he found that out. Okay? They had to move fast. So, no, it's not an official act. The President Obama is putting his head together with all these other people in the White House to frame an innocent man for a crime he did not commit. There is nothing official about that. I don't care how many people sit down there and they hold their breath until their face turns blue. It's official, it's official, it's official. It's Obama doing it in the White House. How can it not be official? Well, they're planning a federal felony, of course. They're planning a crime. That's not covered by the Constitution. It's just, you think the Constitution covers a president sitting in the Oval Office in the White House plotting to do criminal leaks, targeting an innocent man? Somehow he's got immunity if he engages in that behavior. Now, if this comes out while he's still in office, that's a difficult question. But the Congress can resort to impeachment, and you can remove him from office and then try him for the crimes he committed. But look, Barack Obama is out of office now. You can't, okay. And remember, I dived into this back in 2017 when we were going through the Mueller Special Counsel stuff. Trump was in office at that time. And a lot of the shit that they wanted him charged for didn't have to do with Russian stuff during the campaign or prior to the campaign, 2015, 2016. They wanted him impeached for shit he did after he was inaugurated. What they claim were crimes Trump did after he was inaugurated. So I had to do a deep dive into what's covered and what's not covered by presidential immunity. So as usual, I'm already ahead of 95% of the social media influencers out there. It doesn't even matter if he does it in the Oval Office with all the members of his cabinet there, or some key members of his cabinet, or his National Security Council present. If the sitting president starts to instruct people to break the law and engage in a criminal conspiracy to target innocent people for prosecution for crimes they have not committed, there is no presidential immunity. There isn't. So you already have people out there saying nothing will ever happen to Obama. He was president when he did all of this, and now that he's not president, he's got immunity, so you have to leave him alone. There's people out there already trying to sell this. I'm checking something real quick. Okay, that's the first thing you have to understand. It doesn't matter if you're the president. And it's your FBI director. You tell the FBI director to commit a crime or to let somebody else get away with a serious crime. You don't have immunity for that. Nixon was going to be impeached. If he hadn't resigned, he would have been impeached. And the second article of impeachment was his using the CIA to block the FBI investigating the Watergate break-in. Now, this is all coming out years later. We're almost 9 years on from all this stuff that happened in 2015, 2016, 2017. A lot of people want to believe because they've been so mentally beaten down, nothing's going to happen. And Obama's just going to walk away scot-free. And I want you to think about this. If a president knows somebody is innocent and they've done nothing wrong. He surrounds himself with cronies who just happen to be the FBI director, the vice president's national security advisor. Okay. He surrounds himself with cronies. Says, we're going to target this person. We're going to investigate. We're going to find some bullshit excuse to investigate this person and claim that they did something wrong and get them fired from their job. And then we're going to go after them and we're going to try to send them to prison. And we're going to spend years dragging him and his family through the courts. That's the very definition of a RICO criminal conspiracy. And the fact that the president's and one of the plotters, the president's one of the people involved in it, that doesn't mean he can't be charged. He's not president any longer. He wouldn't even, if we discovered this before he left office, he still wouldn't have had any immunity for it. He sure as hell has no immunity for it 8 or 9 years later. So when you hear people talk about, they throw around the words presidential immunity, just keep this in mind. It only covers official acts. You enter into the textbook definition of a RICO criminal conspiracy to either target an innocent person, you give orders that an innocent person be targeted for a crime they didn't commit, or you give an order that a person who committed a shit ton of real crimes, that they be let off the hook. You're committing a RICO crime either way. Persecuting an innocent person or making sure a guilty person gets off. So, now the social media is full of instant presidential immunity experts. Keep in mind what I told you. We watched this will develop over the next week or two. Keep that in mind. You're going to hear a lot of people bloviate and throw bullshit at you about why Obama can't be touched for any of this. And I'm sure there's more that's going to come out. We've only seen some of it so far. Kelsey says there's more that's coming. He's using the drip method. She's putting something out there and she's giving Obama a chance to issue a bullshit denial or justification. And then she drops something that blows up his denial. So you can expect to see this play out over the next couple of days. Now, there's a second thing I wanted to get to. This just happened. So I'm gonna play a video for you. Let me find it. I gotta reduce the size of this so far. I'm gonna turn the sound up. See if you can hear this. Hopefully, this doesn't cause a feedback. Okay, gonna share my screen here. Whoops, wrong screen. Hold on. Okay, let me make sure I got the right one. Now, this happened while I was while I was getting this stream ready. So this just happened. John Solomon just gave this. Why am I looking at the wrong one again? I don't understand. I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, hold on. Let me figure out what's going on here. That's not the right screen. Let me see if I can put up the right one. Okay. I see it for a second and then it goes away. Weird. Okay, trying one more time. Okay, I switch back to my screen here. The video disappears. I'm gonna move back and play it. All right, here we go. This is John Solomon now.
The FBI under Kash Patel turned over to Congress 700 pages of Crossfire Hurricane documents, unredacted and declassified. These are the documents President Trump intended to be released in January 2021, but the FBI scooped them up, kept them from going to public release. We sued, tried to fight for them. Donald Trump came back into office and he released them a second time. And today they got to Congress and then they ended up in the hands of Justin News. We're going to tell you about one right now. Perhaps the most important thing in the documents that we found early on. One of the two informants that were used by the FBI to spy or to snitch on Donald Trump and his campaign was named Stephen Halper. He's not the most famous. Christopher Steele, the guy that wrote the dossier, he's the most famous. But Stephen Halper was used quite a bit by the FBI. In fact, he was used for 3 decades by the FBI, and it turns out snitching is a pretty lucrative profession. He got paid nearly $1.2 million by the FBI to be a confidential human source from the late 90s or from the early 1990s to 2017. The last of those payments, $70,000 for his work snitching on the Trump campaign and the Crossfire Hurricane early investigation. Now, why? What are we going to tell you about it? It turns out that he got that money and he kept being used by the FBI and he kept being validated as reliable, even though the FBI detected he had given them an inaccurate, false, or disprovable story. What is it? He's the guy that told the FBI that Mike Flynn, soon to be Donald Trump's national security advisor in the fall of 2016, back in 2014, had left a conference, an overseas conference, while he was a 3-star general and the head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, alone with a Russian woman. Now, the FBI determined that was implausible and inaccurate. In fact, President Mike Flynn's own security detail would never have left him alone. He was a 3-star general and the head of the intelligence agency. He was always guarded by people. They determined it was unreliable, not true, inaccurate, not plausible. But guess what? He kept using him to keep digging further and further into people like George Papadopoulos and Carter Page and others.
Okay. Now, I mean, if you followed me for any length of time, especially since I was covering Spygate beginning in 2017, then Stephen Harper is a name that's going to be very well known to you. And Svetlana Lakova is one of the real victims of this whole Spygate scandal. She was teaching at Cambridge. She was a Russian expert at Cambridge. She was making a name for herself. And then her former mentor, Richard Durlov, and the other guy's name I can never remember, decided to feed her to Stephen Harper so Harper could invent a story about her leaving a conference with General Flynn so they could sell the angle to the FBI that Flynn was compromised by the Russians. And that literally derailed her entire career. She lost her teaching position. And she spent years since 2016 trying to get her reputation back. She's been suing this guy, Harper. I don't know if she still has any active lawsuits, but I know that she pretty much bankrupted herself trying to get this guy to retract all the bullshit stories he's been telling about her and General Flynn to all of his media contacts for years, going around, telling the story about how she left how she left this conference with Flynn, which was a ludicrous story on the face of it. I mean, can you imagine as the head of the DIA leaving a conference and jumping into a cloud with everybody watching? This is the story Harper tells. Everybody's watching. Flynn leaves with Lakova, who we had just met. Never met him before. And I forgot the point. The point that Atlanta is making here is that she believes this is what the Mar-a-Lago raid was all about. The FBI raided Mar-a-Lago to scoop up these Crossfire Hurricane documents. These are the documents Trump wanted to declassify. This is how the story goes. He wanted to declassify in January 2021, but they wouldn't let him. They wouldn't let him declassify. This is how the story goes. And the man with full declassification authority was not allowed to declassify this. Okay, so he takes these documents with him to Mar-a-Lago. And the story is the archivist and the FBI and the Biden administration is desperately telling him, look, you had no right to take these documents. You must return them. You didn't really declassify them. They're not declassified. You must give them back. You must give them back to us. And he wouldn't do it. Trump wouldn't do it. And so this is how that whole story develops, that for a year and a half, Trump is getting regular notices. Now, you really need to give those documents back. And he won't do it. And so finally, we get the FBI raid on Mar-a-Lago. And they can't really have taken the documents from Trump back then, because if they had, I believe they probably would have destroyed them. This is where, you got to really put your thinking cap on. He wants to declassify this. He totally can't do it. So what? He brings them with him to Mar-a-Lago while they're still classified. I don't really think that makes any sense. But then the FBI says, well, you've had a year and a half to give them back, and you won't give them back. Fine. We will hold a raid, and we will take them back. And they make up all these excuses about Iranian missile or whatever missile shit, or some excuse that Trump was exposing, classified stuff having to do with Iran or something like that. When really, it's just to get down there and get the Spygate documents back and take them away from him. But look, he came back 6 months ago. And like Lakova is saying, President Trump declassified this. Whether he had to declassify it again, okay, I don't know. But look, he has them again, assuming they ever successfully took them away from him. He got them back. And he released them to Katz Patel and the Congress. I believe, let me check something real quick.
The FBI under Katz Patel turned over to Congress 700 pages of Crossfire Hurricane documents.
Okay, 700 pages worth. So it sounds like they tried to take 700 pages worth of Crossfire Hurricane documents away from Donald Trump. I do not know if they were successful in doing that. But Trump obviously had these documents. Again, because he released them to the FBI earlier this year. and the FBI has now given them to the Congress. Kash Patel now, FBI Director Kash Patel. God, I love saying that. FBI Director Kash Patel gave 700 crossfire hurricane documents to the Congress earlier this year. And so right now, this is the question I want to ask about. Let me go back to that page. Because I did a column 5 years ago called New Vindication, Svetlana Lakova. I mean, all this stuff was coming out in 2020 about how a lot of the Spygate hoaxes, how they function, all the illegal shit that went on. You set up the spying on the Trump campaign and then Trump cabinet people. How they set it up when it was coming out one after another. So I did viewer vindications for Trump, for Flynn, for Devin Nunes, and this was part 3, Svetlana Lakova. And this is a shot of Cambridge there that you're saying. She lost her job. I mean, she had a dream job at Cambridge, and she lost it. And she spent years trying to get some justice for what happened to her. And enough had come out. By May 1st, 2020, I did a column at the Epoch Times. Year of vindication. So Svetlana Lakova was vindicated. She said all along she was not a Russian asset. She was not a Russian spy. She did not leave a conference with General Flynn. But all these fake news media people, all these FBI people have a vested interest in pushing that narrative because they had to stop Trump. And so it's almost a decade now. This poor woman has been waiting for the truth to come out, where even the fake news media is going to be forced to give her an apology. And it looks like we're almost there. I said this. I hope that sweaty fat fuck Harper is ready for his national close-up. He better be, because, man, I tell you, it's coming. His national close-up is coming. Now, how many people had their lives ruined by this? General Flynn and his family. I mean, if you watched the Flynn documentary and you read his recent book, Pardon of Innocence, I mean, you see what the Flynn family was put through by these people. And most people, I want more people than ever to find out, what they did to Svetlana Lakova, what they did to Cody Page, what they did to George Papadopoulos and his wife, Simona, what they did to Paul Manafort. Okay? They did their best to destroy people's lives based on lies. And now I've been waiting a long time for this. So right before I started this stream, somebody alerted me that John Solomon had just given this interview. And he says they completely exposed the role stuff that Harper played. The fact that the FBI knew he was feeding them bullshit. They knew that they were paying him, and he was feeding them bullshit stories. But they wanted to continue using him anyway. And indeed, even after they already we're putting stories about Flynn and Lakova that they got from Harper, putting them in reports and FISA warrants and shit. They continue to use Harper as the confidential human source. They send him at Cody Page. They send him at George Papadopoulos. They send him at Sam Clovis. Recording them, trying to get them to say something incriminating they can use for a FISA warrant. All this goes on during the summer of 2016. I've talked about it many times. And somehow, just like Joseph Pienka, old Joe Pienka, somehow, Stefan Harper was able, because I understand CIA and the media, same fucking thing, all right? They're able to keep Harper in the background. As much stuff has come out about the Spygate scandal over the last 10 years. They always manage to keep two people on deep background, and they never somehow, the spotlight just never lands on them. It's never allowed to land on them. Joseph Pienka, Stefan Harper. I said the other day, we'll know this is real. What's happening right now? If there's really going to be some justice, if there's really going to be some accountability, we'll know. If old Joe Pienka gets dragged out from under that rock he's been hiding under for almost 8 years now. That's how we'll know it's real. Because when James Comey and Andrew McCabe set up that false statement trap with General Flynn in January of 2017, based on the fucking dumb Logan Act violation narrative, which was created by a leak of a phone call transcript, felony leak, mind you, to the Washington Post, where you have David Ignatius at the Washington Post on January 12th saying, hey, somebody needs to really investigate that Flynn guy. Hey, sounds like this guy's making up his own foreign policy. Somebody better go investigate him. Is he trying to do off the books deals with the Russians via these phone calls? Somebody better go check that out. Remember, November 2016 to January 2017, what the fake news media doing? What narrative are they endlessly hyping to the public? No. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Now you know Donald Trump only won that election because the Russians cheated. They cheated, and the only reason he won it because the Russians helped him. You know that, right? Okay. They spent 2.5 months flogging that narrative. You remember that? Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. That swaggering alpha male dumbass is about to become president of the United States because the Russians helped him steal the election. Then the Steele dossier gets published by BuzzFeed on January 11. And fake news loses its mind. Oh my God! Oh my God, it's true! Super duper sophisticated, competent former British spy from MI6 did a series of reports and a document that proves Donald Trump and his entire campaign are working for the Russians. Talk about throwing gasoline on a fire. And then the very next day, what happens? Oh, wow, look at this. Here's Trump's incoming national security advisor engaging in a series of secret phone calls with the Russian ambassador from the Dominican Republic. Ooh. I mean, if you were already inclined to believe there's no way Donald Trump honestly won that election, no way. And then the Steele dossier hits the airwaves. And then the very next day, the transcript leak hits the Washington Post. David Ignatius is saying, somebody needs to check out that Flynn guy. Make sure he's not violating that Logan Act. It was a time of mass hysteria being driven by intelligence professionals who make use of the media to drive certain narratives that allows them to do what they want to do. And what did Comey and Obama and all these other guys, what did they want to do? Well, they wanted to investigate General Flynn. They wanted to get rid of General Flynn. The publication of the Steele dossier and the transcript leak to the Washington Post beat that drum. Somebody, it's the Russians. The Russians are coming. The Russians are here. The Russians are here. They're inside the Trump campaign. And somebody in the FBI better get up off their ass and go investigate that Flynn guy. And so what happened? Well, January 12th, Ignatius' column appears in the Washington Post. And for 12 days, the hysteria and the calls for Flynn to be investigated as a Russian's asset build and build and build and build. And then Comey and McCabe got Flynn right where they want him. They can say, hey, there's some legitimate questions here. You know, what was Flynn trying to do? We need to send some agents to interview him and find out what was he trying to do with those phone calls. And don't forget from what Tulsi Gabbard released about that fake ICA. They sent Obama a real intelligence assessment, intelligence community assessment about Russian interference in the 2016 election. He said, you assholes march right back to your office and write out another one, and you tell me what I want to hear this time. You go right back to your office and sit your ass down, and you write out an intelligence assessment I can use for a booby trap for the incoming Trump administration, and you do it right now. And so they did. And they wrote him a new assessment, which had the Steele dossier placed in an appendix, which Obama knows is a hoax. and Obama sets the booby trap. He expels over 30 Russian diplomats on December 29, 2016, because he got that new intelligence community assessment. He demanded they go back and write for him, and he waved it like the bloody shirt in front of the media. Oh my God! Look! The Russians interfered in our election. Look at this. Oh my God. I must now act on what the intelligence community has told me in this very serious assessment about the Russians interfering in our 2016 election. I'm going to toss 30 plus Russian diplomats ass first out of the country. I'm going to hit Putin with a bunch of new sanctions to teach him a lesson about interfering in our elections. Booby trap. What's that hand I see there? Brian, how was it a booby trap? Oh, I'm glad you asked that question. How was this a booby trap? Obama knows the Trump administration, after Obama just provoked a very real international crisis, a diplomat crisis, by throwing all those diplomats out of the country and hitting Russia with new sanctions based on bullshit he knew wasn't true. Okay? Trump and Flynn were going to have to deal with that and try to calm things down and placate the Russians, because naturally the Russians are upset. They knew they hadn't done anything. What the hell do you mean interfere in your election? So they know the guy who's gonna be the point man for the incoming Trump administration to calm things down after Obama dug a hole, dumped a bunch of gasoline into it, and set it on fire. Flynn is the guy that's going to be sent to try to put the fire out. Obama and Biden understood that, so they're watching and they're waiting. Sure enough, while he's on vacation in the Dominican Republic, General Flynn had a series of phone calls with the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak. He's trying to calm things down. The Russians hadn't done anything. At the most, they have maybe a couple of Facebook meme groups. They did not steal the election for Trump. But Obama made it look good. And they whipped up that hysteria for 2.5 months. And then the Steele dossier came out. And they knew Flynn had engaged in a series of phone calls with the Russian ambassador trying to calm everything down. And so by the time they had that January 5th meeting in the White House, they're sitting there and going, how can we use Flynn trying to calm things down? How can we use this to hype our Russian narrative? And Joe Biden, according to handwritten notes taken at the meeting, Joe Biden, the one said, hey, how about if we use the Logan Act, huh? How about if we use the Logan Act to get Flynn? To say he violated the Logan Act. He's out there doing his own off the books foreign policy. How about if we try that? James Comey and Andrew McCabe are at that meeting. They're there. January 5th. What happened 7 days later? Well, somebody went and got phone call transcripts of the calls General Flynn had with Ambassador Kislyak. And they selectively edit and leak these partial transcripts to the columnist at the Washington Post, David Ignatius. So January 5th, they're saying to each other, let's use the Logan Act to target Flynn. 7 days later, Ignatius publishes a column asking that question. Did General Flynn violate the Logan Act here? Somebody should look into this. And then 12 days later, the column appears on January 12th. 2 FBI agents are sent to the White House on January 24th to interview General Michael Flynn about his phone calls with Ambassador Kislyak. And we know who their names are. One of these men became a very, very famous person. You see him sometimes on your television when he shows up as an analyst for one of the networks. His name is Peter Strzok. He was dragged out for a very contentious live congressional hearing, which you may have seen photos from, where he ends up looking like a demon, like he's possessed. Peter Strzok, he became famous as one of the lovebirds when he and his text messages, thousands of text messages that he had with his side dish, FBI lawyer Lisa Page. Those text messages were declassified in late 2017 by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. So one of these agents who showed up at the White House to interview General Flynn about his Kislyak phone calls became nationally famous. The other FBI agent who was there that day has literally become a ghost. His name is FBI Special Agent Joseph Pienka. And I've commented on this many times over the years, how amazing it is to me that one of the key figures involved in the Spygate scandal, because Pienka doesn't just show up for that one interview. No, he's involved in a lot of other shit that went down, including the fake defensive briefing given to President Trump and General Flynn and Chris Christie, which was actually a Spygate op, a crossfire hurricane op, Pienka was out there briefing Trump and Flynn and Chris Christie so he could check them out and spy on them as part of the crossfire hurricane investigation at the FBI. They did exactly what Harry Reid suggested. They gave Trump and Flynn a fake briefing. So Pienka's involved in more than just this one interview in the White House with the newly installed National Security Advisor, General Michael Flynn, who sits there and looks out the window while he's talking to these two agents and says, "What a beautiful black guy." A lot of weird things went on back in those days. I hope someday we find out what a beautiful black sky means. Anyway, I said all that to say this, and I'll close with this. This is how you'll know it's real. This time. This is how you'll know it's actually leading to something. If this guy that they've ghosted since 2017, 8 years ago, 8 years now, while Peter Strzok became a national figure, you'll know this is real if Joe Pientka gets dragged out of that hole he's been hiding in for 8 years now. That's how you'll know this is real. So keep your eye peeled for that. Oh, and it's a really good thing that Stephen Harper is now being dragged into this national spotlight, because these are the two guys that have been involved setting this up. They are key players in Spygate. And yet, despite all the news and media coverage Russiagate and Spygate has gotten for the past 10, going on 9 years now, these two figures manage to, the spotlight always seems to miss them. It never really lands on them and stays there. Pientka and Harper. So you'll know this is real if Harper, and it looks like it's about to happen, getting dragged into the national spotlight. If he's joined by FBI Special Agent Joseph Pientka, then you'll know that we actually are in phase 3, the justice phase. Thank you for watching. God bless you. I hope you guys have a great weekend.